Hey guys, coming at you with a little weekend treat. It's time for a little bit of discussion, story time, whatever it might be in the end. I just want to be able to tell some stories or in general be talking about my experience, how it feels like to be a budget player, especially when it comes to tournaments and so on. First of all, this is not going to be like a classic video of a budget player ranting about, oh, I can't compete with the meta, I have to spend so much money, you can't win any tournaments. Obviously, I can't win any YCS with like spending less than 50 quid. That is understandable. I mean, it is technically, I guess, possible, but the meta right now is like you would need hand traps, and I'm back to whining, no jokes. I get that you can't possibly want to win a YCS with like spending less than 100 or 50 bucks and leaving out stuff like hand traps and whatsoever. Obviously, you could argue if that's a good thing that the game is like that or a bad thing, but with a lot of stuff in life, it will be like that. And I'm fine with that. I don't mind this at all. That is not a problem. What I kind of mind is, first of all, categories of budget players. Talking about that, is there's a lot of people who either don't want to spend money on Yu-Gi-Oh cards because they just don't see it as their big hobby, or they kind of feel like it's a waste of money or whatever, or people like me who just don't have the money because they're like students, go to uni, go to school even still, or maybe have to pay rent for whatever reason and can't afford any Yu-Gi-Oh cards over that one, or can't spend more than 10 bucks a month, for example. And that would take ages to get like a playset of cards together that then might be possibly limited banned at one point, and they just don't want to put that much money or cannot put that much money into the game, which is fine in my opinion. But the big problem starts when it comes to going to tournaments. For the people who maybe don't want to spend a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh because it's not their main hobby or whatever, it's not a big problem because they mainly don't want to go to YCSs or whatever then anyway. But if you actually are quite into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh but want to compete with a rogue deck or work really hard on your Flower Guardian deck, your Abyss Actors, or whatsoever, I don't know, Shiranui, whatever kind of decks you can't afford at that point, and you really want to show them off, or even if you want to play Crusadia, for example, it's not that expensive to play if you run special builds, I guess, then you kind of want to compete at one point. But first of all, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not as spread out in at least Europe and probably America too, I don't know, as some other things would be. The player base is not too high, so events will be, I guess I'm speaking for a lot of people there, somewhat without your reach. Like for me, it even takes up to like 1.5 hours to get to a local. Like my town has a local with like 3 or 4 people every 2 months. I don't know. It's really, you can't call a local, not that many people. It's very 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 unfrequently, and it's just annoying. And for me to get to the next bigger town that actually has like a gaming store where I could play, that would basically cost me around participating at it, going there, maybe like getting some food because you kind of spent the whole day there, will cost me about like 20 to 40 bucks, like just for one day, just for local. I mean, you get a booster pack, right? You get a booster pack. We can argue about if what is in there is good or bad, but you at least get something for it, and you might have a good time. You obviously, if you're unlucky, not enough people show up, the whole event is kind of bollocks. Then it's really not fun at that point. So you always have the risk of that happening. Or if it gets cancelled, I don't know, then it's even worse because then you still have to get back and invest like 3 hours of your lifetime for getting to an event that is not really that great and it's not really that fun. But that's only where it starts. Because if we skip one step here, the regionals, because they can be quite neat, it's somewhat close to at one point, I guess. Like, it's not too hard to get there if you really want to. You'll probably, in a lot of cases, I've heard of people on the note myself, you'd have to spend the night somewhere at least, I assume, which would then cost money. But that gets really out of hand when you're talking YCS. There's a lot of countries, especially in Europe, or a lot of states, I guess, in America, that will never have a YCS because they basically only always do it at the same spots. And for example, if you're talking UK, there's always London. If you're coming from Scotland, if you're coming from Wales, it will take ages to get to London or cost you a lot of money. So if you actually cannot spend a lot of money on Yu-Gi-Oh, that does not only include cards, but it also includes going to the events. Plus, possibly, a lot of people who don't have money don't have that much time. That obviously don't count for university students, at least where I come from. That is not necessarily the case. But maybe I'm just lazy, who knows. it is also sometimes a problem that you cannot make it. You have to, some people want to go to pre-registration, but I think for a YCS tournament, we can all agree you have to be there one day or at least the evening before the actual tournament starts, because registration starts at 8 and you can barely travel to like a different country within like the span of like 2 hours in the morning or whatever. You don't really want to get up at 3 o'clock. It's not a thing. You want to be kind of mentally ready as well for the tournament, so would not do that. So you would have at least to stay 1 to 2 nights in the city if you actually, let's say, make it to day 2, which is very unlikely if you're playing on a budget and whatsoever. But if you make it, you'd have to stay from Friday to Saturday, from Saturday to Sunday, and then if you don't want to go home or cannot go home on that Sunday, would have to stay to Monday morning, for example, which would then be 3 nights. And I think that if you're not a big hostel fan, even if you're a hostel fan, they're not like for free as well. So let's say 20 quid per night checks out with a lot of things. I don't know, not quite on it. And I actually like to have, if I'm going somewhere, I don't have the budget to like go on vacation and do that all the time. For example, if I'm not earning that much money, then I want that to be somewhat of a vacation. So that when the next point kind of comes into play here, I want to have a good time there, not only playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but outside of it too, because at maybe in the evening I want to see the town or whatever. And then I look at the list where it is, and I see London, I see Milan, I don't know how to pronounce it, Utrecht, which is okay. And then you look at Germany, it's Bochum. And no offense against Bochum, but there's so many better places. I don't know why they do it. Is there some Konami headquarters there, or is it the cheapest, easily reachable? I think it's not that easily reachable. Like, you have to go on some regional trains. It's actually not that easy to get there. But also the town is, let's say it's not a tourist place, okay? It's not a tourist place. If you live in Bochum or really like the town, no offense, really, no offense. But I think Munich, Hamburg, if you want to do it in Germany, like could have done it in France or wherever. If you want to do it in Germany, then there's so much better place. Like, it's Berlin would be better. Like, even Cologne, which is somewhat new to Bochum, and Düsseldorf and so on, would all be kind of better, because you want to give people like, I don't know, kind of a possibility to get cheap places to stay, which I think can be quite difficult in London, for example. I don't think that is the cheapest of all towns, especially at the moment. So I actually think that YCS is mainly for the people from the UK anyway, I think. What do I know? But on the mainland Europe, for example, it's kind of hard. And then if I want to go somewhere and it is somewhat a vacation for me, because I can't afford to like go on 5 vacations a year and so on, then I kind of want to have a good time. And it's really hard having a good time when you have to spend money to travel there, when you have to spend money for accommodation there, when the town is not really a holiday like a place where you want to go to, or if you want to see it. Plus, every year it seems to be at the same kind of spots. And then at one point you know the town that is even less of a holiday for you. And I just feel like that they want you to spend a lot of money on something where you probably will not get a big reward, because if you're a budget player, let's be honest, you won't make it to the top cut, you won't make it to the top 32, top 16, you won't get like a world championship qualifier invitation, you won't do all that. You just spent a lot of money to go to a town that you might not like or that is not as good, spend your night in an accommodation that you would have not chosen if you would go on holiday, for example, and then get kicked out after the first day because you're playing with a deck that you really like and you put a lot of effort into. But let's be honest, it's not really meta relevant. I just don't see the point in it. I just don't really see why I would do that if I not by accident, by chance, live very close to the actual place, or am there out of other reasons, or have a friend there that I can crash with, or whatever. I actually don't see the point in going there anymore. Well, that's just my opinion right here. If you still like doing it, if you're saying like, oh, that's not a problem for me, then I'm glad for you. I'm glad you're having fun and life, basically. But let me know in the comments what you think about it. Am I just a little bit too whiny, or am I making some valid points? Can you understand where I'm coming from? Could they maybe make something that there's smaller, maybe YCS that more spread out, or I guess they can't really like give you a free accommodation or anything, and I don't think you would want that free accommodation, and at least most people maybe wouldn't. So I actually don't know what to do in this kind of situation. There's not a good way of Konami to actually like do anything, plus especially if the game is not that known or not that widely spread, you can't do much about it. I mean, they could promote it, but I think they choose more to promote Duel Links instead of the actual Yu-Gi-Oh. Maybe they thought to get into the like getting people into the actual Yu-Gi-Oh when they start out like with the like beginner's drug, and then give them Duel Links, and then they might go into the real Yu-Gi-Oh. But I think with seeing the new 5Ds including Duel Links, people raging about that one. I don't think that's what happens as well. I could make a whole video about Duel Links and what I think about Konami's marketing. If you want that, let me know in the comments as well. I am really great on talking about those kind of topics because instead of doing any stuff for my real life, I'm just thinking about those useless things all the time. So if you had a good time, if you want more of those kind of videos, let me know. If you like it, leave a like, subscribe to my channel, comments, blah blah blah, you know the drill. Have a good day.